A transatlantic clash. Trump and Zelensky's heated exchange. The Oval Office, typically a stage for diplomatic pleasantries, witnessed a dramatic confrontation last Friday. President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky clashed, their sharp words echoing a growing rift between the two leaders. Zelensky, visiting Washington to secure continued U.S. support for his embattled nation, found himself on the defensive. The Ukrainian president, known for his resolute stance against Russian aggression, was pressed by Trump to pursue a swift end to the conflict. The meeting, intended to showcase unity, instead exposed a deep divide on the best path forward for Ukraine and the future of U.S.-Ukraine relations. The clash between the two leaders was not simply a difference of opinion. It was a fundamental disconnect in their worldviews. Trump, advocating for a swift resolution through negotiations, appeared to prioritize ending the conflict over unequivocally supporting Ukraine's territorial integrity. Zelensky, facing the daily realities of Russian aggression, stood firm in his commitment to defending his country's sovereignty, even as the costs mounted. The tension in the Oval Office that day was palpable, signaling a turning point in a relationship once defined by shared interests and mutual support. The heated exchange, according to sources present, centered on Ukraine's dependence on U.S. military aid. Trump, known for his transactional approach to foreign policy, questioned the efficacy of continued U.S. support. Zelensky, in turn, reportedly highlighted Russia's ongoing aggression and the need for unwavering U.S. commitment. The confrontation, ending abruptly with Zelensky's departure and the cancellation of a planned press conference, left observers stunned. The abrupt end to the meeting, without the customary joint press conference, spoke volumes about the deterioration of the relationship. What began as a partnership forged in the fires of shared opposition to Russian aggression had devolved into a public display of discord. The image of Zelensky, departing the White House with a cloud of uncertainty hanging over his head, sent shockwaves through diplomatic circles and raised serious questions about the future of U.S.-Ukraine relations. The confrontation between Trump and Zelensky marked a boiling point in a relationship already strained by disagreements over strategy and aid. In the days following the Oval Office clash, the Trump administration announced a temporary freeze on a new military aid package for Ukraine. This decision, met with immediate condemnation from both Democrats and Republicans in Congress, further deepened the rift between the White House and Kyiv. Trump's decision to freeze aid, while framed by the administration as a temporary measure to ensure accountability and effectiveness, has been widely interpreted as a dangerous concession to Russia. Critics argue that withholding vital military support at a time when Ukraine is actively defending itself against Russian-backed forces sends a message of weakness and emboldens Putin's aggression. The aid freeze is not an isolated incident but rather the culmination of a series of actions by the Trump administration that have raised concerns about its commitment to Ukraine. From Trump's repeated praise of Putin to his administration's reluctance to implement sanctions passed by Congress, there is a growing perception that the White House is prioritizing its own political interests over the security of a vulnerable ally. This perception is further fueled by Trump's personal history with Ukraine. The former president's first impeachment trial centered on allegations that he withheld aid to Ukraine in 2019 to pressure Zelensky into launching an investigation into his political rival, Joe Biden. While Trump was acquitted by the Senate, the episode cast a long shadow over U.S.-Ukraine relations. The recent events in Washington have sent shockwaves through the U.S.-Ukraine relationship, leaving both sides grappling with uncertainty and mistrust. The confrontation between Trump and Zelensky, coupled with the aid freeze, has exposed deep fissures in an alliance once considered a cornerstone of U.S. foreign policy in the region. For Ukraine, the implications are particularly stark. The country, already locked in a protracted conflict with Russia, now faces the prospect of diminished support from its most powerful ally. This development comes at a critical juncture, as Ukraine is struggling to maintain its territorial integrity and counter Russian disinformation campaigns. The potential consequences of a weakened U.S.-Ukraine relationship extend far beyond the immediate conflict. A less engaged America in the region could embolden Russia to pursue further aggression, not only in Ukraine but also against other neighboring countries. This in turn could destabilize the entire region and undermine the security of NATO allies. the current crisis also raises serious questions about the future of U.S. leadership on the world stage. Trump's transactional approach to foreign policy, coupled with his apparent willingness to prioritize personal relationships over long-standing alliances, has left many wondering if the United States can still be relied upon as a reliable partner. Section 4. Global repercussions, international reactions to Trump's move. The international community has watched with growing alarm as the U.S.-Ukraine relationship has deteriorated. Trump's decision to freeze military aid to Kyiv has been met with widespread condemnation from European leaders and warnings of the potential consequences for regional stability. Many European capitals view the U.S. move as a dangerous appeasement of Russia and a betrayal of a vulnerable ally. The European Union, which has imposed its own sanctions on Russia over its actions in Ukraine, has expressed solidarity with Kyiv and urged the Trump administration to reverse its decision. The UK, a staunch supporter of Ukraine, has also voiced its concern. Prime Minister Boris Johnson, in a phone call with Zelenskyy, reaffirmed the UK's commitment to Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. He also stressed the importance of transatlantic unity in the face of Russian aggression. Beyond Europe, the response to Trump's actions has been largely negative. Canada, which has a significant Ukrainian diaspora, has condemned the aid freeze and called for continued international support for Ukraine. Other countries, including Japan and Australia, have expressed similar concerns, highlighting the global ramifications of the crisis. Section 5. Ukraine at a crossroads. The impact on the battlefield and beyond. The sudden shift in U.S. policy towards Ukraine comes at a precarious moment for the country. While a fragile ceasefire has largely held in eastern Ukraine, the conflict remains far from resolved. The aid freeze, if prolonged, could have a devastating impact on Ukraine's ability to defend itself against Russian-backed forces. The Ukrainian military, which has made significant strides in modernizing its forces in recent years, still relies heavily on U.S. assistance. The aid package frozen by the Trump administration includes vital military equipment such as Javelin anti-tank missiles, which have proven effective in deterring Russian armor. Beyond the immediate military implications, the aid freeze could have a demoralizing effect on Ukrainian society. The Ukrainian people, who have shown remarkable resilience in the face of Russian aggression, may question the West's commitment to their country's future if they perceive that their most powerful ally is abandoning them. The political fallout within Ukraine is also likely to be significant. President Zelenskyy, who came to power on a promise to end the conflict and root out corruption, is now facing criticism from both pro-Russian and pro-Western factions. His ability to navigate this increasingly polarized political landscape will be crucial in determining Ukraine's future trajectory. Section 6. The path forward. Diplomacy, dialogue, and the quest for peace. Despite the recent setbacks, the pursuit of a peaceful resolution to the conflict in Ukraine remains paramount. While the path forward is fraught with challenges, diplomacy and dialogue must remain the primary tools for achieving a lasting settlement. The first step towards de-escalation is a clear and unequivocal commitment from all parties to the Minsk peace accords. These agreements, signed in 2014 and 2015, outline a roadmap for ending the conflict, including a ceasefire, the withdrawal of heavy weapons, and constitutional reforms to grant greater autonomy to eastern Ukraine. In addition to implementing the Minsk agreements, there is a need for a renewed international effort to facilitate dialogue between Ukraine and Russia. The Normandy format, which includes France, Germany, Russia, and Ukraine, has played a key role in mediating the conflict but has stalled in recent years. A successful diplomatic process will require Russia to abandon its support for separatist forces in eastern Ukraine and respect Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Ukraine, for its part, must be willing to engage in good faith negotiations and implement necessary reforms to address legitimate grievances in the Donbas region. Section 7. The future of the West. The stakes of the Ukraine crisis. The crisis in Ukraine is not just a regional conflict, it is a test of the West's resolve, and a harbinger of the challenges facing the international order. The outcome of this conflict will have profound implications for the future of Europe, the transatlantic alliance, and the rules-based international system. If Russia is allowed to succeed in its aggression against Ukraine, it will send a dangerous message to other revisionist powers that they can redraw borders by force and violate international law with impunity. This could embolden countries like China to pursue their own territorial ambitions, potentially leading to a more unstable and conflict-prone world. The crisis in Ukraine also highlights the importance of transatlantic unity. A divided West, weakened by internal divisions and a lack of common purpose, will be ill-equipped to address the complex security challenges of the 21st century. The stakes in Ukraine are high. The future of the West, and the rules-based international order it has championed for decades, may depend on the ability of the United States and its allies to stand united in the face of Russian aggression and work towards a peaceful resolution to this dangerous conflict.